Welcome to episode 5 of the Guerrilla Social Work Podcast. This is Justin. Today we are going to get into a discussion about recovery, what that process looks like for clients, how we can better assist them and help them through that process. And if you want to know more, you are just going to have to keep listening. So we'll end up getting into that. So this episode is brought to you by Alpha Counseling and Treatment, which provides emotional strength for a better living. And we provide services in individual, group, and family counseling. If you want to know more, check out the website at utahsbesttherapy.com. Also, make sure you check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff as we get that up and rolling. It's Guerrilla Social Work Podcast, Guerrilla, Guerrilla Social Work. So check that out, and then we will get into today's discussion on recovery.
So good. I cheat on the weekends now, though.
Dude,
I have to. If I don't have pizza, forget it. I'm not going to do it if I can't have.
What's crazy is how that guy was talking about. I'd have to look it up, but he was talking about the supplement that they're coming out with now. Like, I guess another, I don't want to say competitor of his, but another company makes it where you take the supplement, then you can just eat a bowl of pasta, and then basically your body just stays in ketosis.
Keto. Well, I need to ask a question on that because that part.
Are we recording now?
Yeah.
That part doesn't sit right with me. So, all right. So the idea is that I could eat a bowl of spaghetti, and then I could take my Keto OS. That's the name of the supplement that I take, and it puts me into ketosis, which might be true. Maybe it does put me into ketosis. But the thing is, I still have all that glycogen in my body. Like that, it's not like the supplement burns the glycogen. Like my body's going to digest that. It's going to throw sugar into my system.
Yeah, but it won't though. That's the
Where does it go?
You just crap it out, dude.
Okay. Well, that's what I want to know. I want to.
So, like, it's just like if you drink protein is like notoriously difficult for your body to digest, you know? So if you drink a protein shake without having created an environment for it to absorb and synthesize, in other words, like
availability.
Yeah, like if you haven't worked out and you just drink protein, you're not going to get much absorption rate. So all those, like, you know, it's like we were talking about supplements last week with like your blast cycle,
thermonuclear,
thermal cell nuke or whatever it was.
Crush your lungs.
Eliminate
no, wait, I need those.
Eliminate your
awful
veins.
advertising.
Yeah, but like I there was a Optimum Nutrition came out with one. It was called hydrolyzed or something like. Anyway, but it said like pre-digested protein. I was like, well, so what do you mean by that? Like somebody ate it and puked it up, and then you know, like then I'm eating it now, and it obviously was enzymes. But the thing they're trying to say is, because with protein you're trying to get absorption. That's what you're trying to do. And if you try to get like, you know, 80-90% absorption rate, then you're doing really good. But otherwise, you just crap it out. Your body just says, "Nope, I don't need it," and then just goes through. It doesn't even absorb it at all. I would imagine it's something similar like that.
I guess I just want it.
That'd be awesome if you just shit out noodles, like undigested noodles.
It's like when you eat peanuts, but it's
and I don't know exactly how it works, but that's what the guy was saying in that podcast is. He himself was taking it and doing blood work, and he would check his blood work after eating the carbs. He was still.
That does not make sense to me, but
yep.
how that would
okay,
work.
But so now hold on a second. Aside from losing weight, what does it do?
Energy and focus is huge for that. That has taken over anything that. So my weight loss went from 214. I'm about 204 right now. That was cool. I guess I move a little bit better on the mat when I'm grappling. Great, but I don't crash during the day.
Well, neither do I.
Well, I used to.
That's what stimulants are made for.
Well, you might be. I think it's called like carb adapted. Like your body just might handle it really well. And
so what do you have to? Do you have to eliminate sugar?
Yeah.
Oh,
I wouldn't say
no.
eliminate it. It's got to be ultra low.
Well, yeah, like 20. I think 20 grams of carbs is what 20 to 30 is like a pretty heavy keto.
Well, so it depends on how strict you want to be. Like a general, I could be wrong here on my facts, but like a general, like when this first came out, like the Atkins diet kind of stuff, or just like a general keto diet, you can actually have. I was reading it was saying up to 50 grams of carbs in a day, but if you're aiming for weight loss.
You go a little lower.
You want to be a little lower. Like usually it's around 20 or 30.
My problem.
So the whole idea is
I did that in high school. I did it wrong, but I was like, well, I know that carbs are. Apparently carbs are bad because when I first heard of Atkins, I'm like, well, fat's bad too. So all I did was eat protein. All I had was like probably for 5 weeks, I just ate tuna fish, like dry. This was my senior year of high school. And eggs, and that's really it. And I lost 15 pounds, almost all of it muscle, and my energy sucked. It was awful. But now that I've done it this way, I have like way more fat. I'm eating tons of fat, like stupid amounts of fat, and I feel awesome. For me alone, that's enough for justification.
So you're saying there's more. See, I just need to see it like be demonstrable, and by demonstrable, I mean I want you, whoever is the purveyor of this, to outdo me in something. And if you can do that, that's how science works in my head, bro.
Doesn't.
But what if you tried it and outdid yourself in something?
So I'll tell you what.
What does this guy do? What does this guy?
We'll have a pull-up contest.
Oh,
and that'll
okay.
prove keto works.
Okay,
Yeah,
or we'll have a bench press contest.
Yeah, well, your logic sucks. We'll roll. So we'll do some jiu-jitsu. We'll see.
What does this guy look like that was?
We'll go to marathon.
I had to pull him up.
Well, no. So that's the
big.
thing.
He's in shape.
Yeah, he's a fit dude.
Can he bench press 420?
He can bench press anything.
He might be able to do 40 pull-ups. You can't use yourself as a litmus
test. Can he do 130 push-ups in 2 minutes?
I don't know. Maybe he can deadlift 500 pounds. I'm not sure.
He probably can't do either of those things. Yeah. I don't know how can he do an Ironman? Can he do an Ironman?
Probably not.
Okay.
Most people can't.
Well, so this is all I'm saying. Like I'm saying, like if you're overweight, like. Just, dude, if you ever try to tell me to stop eating Sour Patch Kids, I'll kill you. I'll kill you, bro. If you have a diet that says
you could eat them still, though.
Sour Patch Kids, Coke Zero, and protein, I'll be all on board.
Coke Zero is good on it though.
Apply this to the process of recovery.
no, that's next time.
This fits.
No, listen to that podcast though, that recent one. It's pretty good. Yeah, that one he just was like 4 or 5 ago. This dude was on there.
No, I mean,
Dom something.
Yeah. So no, again, I'm just saying like this is applying to process of recovery. I just say. Okay, well, if I'm getting overweight, go run and get that off. But keep enjoying the things that you like in life. Don't take those things away from you.
What if you don't enjoy running, man?
Figure it out. Figure it out.
Which would be keto. Or lifting weights, or swimming, or jujitsu.
Okay.
Or not eating at all.
This is the part that I don't like. I don't run. I don't run and try to act smug towards people, but people on diets are smug towards me, bro.
I've never given you shit.
I didn't say you. I said people. Like, I'm on the gluten-free diet.
Those people are awful.
Sorry, Nita. I know you don't eat gluten, but, you have a legit.
That did sound like her.
Well, part of the problem is some people would go about these diets and then not do it right. Like generally, like when you think of like low carb or Atkins, people just think, well, I'll just still eat what I'm mostly eating. I'm just going to eat less carbs. Like you were saying, that doesn't necessarily work. Like it's kind of like I'm going to eat less carbs. I'm also going to like boost the crap out of my fat. And then people would also say, well, I got to boost my protein too. Or keto is actually pretty low on protein.
It to me feels so. This is how I'm going to tie this into today's lesson. It feels like another fad, is what it feels like, right? Might be. Because here's the thing about this. So one of the things I say is, if you're overweight and you're trying something new, right? Good for you. I'm glad you're doing it. Keep doing it. But it's not just any one thing. There's no magic bullet, right? Your getting to the point of obesity was a process. It took time, right? It took time to get you there. You weren't like born fat, or whatever. Sure, genetically you may have been predispositioned to be that way.
I understand.
But it took you time to get there. You had to make multiple decisions. And so getting back to square is going to be a process. It's not going to be any one thing. And hence the process of recovery.
Nice tie.
Boom. See,
nice tie. If you're trying to sell me on the idea that shortcuts don't work, I'm with you. I get that.
But yeah, well, it's like when that CrossFit dude beat you on that pull-up competition up at the Spartan thing. Remember that? When he beat you on that?
I sure do.
Dude, well, what infuriated me about that is that he wasn't doing legit pull-ups. He was doing those freaking,
spastic baboon kipping pull-ups.
Yeah. I was like, I was like, oh yeah, I remember my coach, Mr. Reeder, telling me those were cheating, is what those were back in Mount Ogden Middle School. He told me I can't swing my legs and try to use momentum to get myself up.
Hey man, you can't swing like that, man.
That guy
was awesome.
Yeah. He's awesome.
Dude, listen to that podcast though.
I will, maybe.
Least,
I don't want to hear that guy talk about.
Can you at least?
Well, the whole thing is with like any diet, there's
there's
multiple diets that'll work. Kind of like you can eat plenty of carbs and go that route to make it work, but then you can also switch it to, I want to get my primary source from fat and make that work too. So it's kind of like a lot of them can work. Any of them could work really if you make it work. I think it's just a matter of what ones do I like.
Are you putting effort into?
Yeah, which one's easier for me to maintain or try? Like
I like the burn more calories than I take in technique.
That one does
work pretty good. Yeah, I mean that works.
Well, that was like
Can you at least give me the benefit of the doubt that I'm not a slouch, and that if I noticed any like drop off in my physical ability, I probably would have ditched it.
Placebo.
Okay, but it works. Whatever.
They were pretty good.
Yeah.
They had a good song.
Dude, talk about your thing, Justin.
Marnin.
What are we doing?
You're like.
Oh yeah, I was going to intro this podcast.
You're going to intro this podcast.
Yeah,
jeez.
But I'd rather talk about how good the keto diet is.
Do it.
And that Mace he could be a lot better.
So like I was saying, I'm setting my push-up record this Thursday. I'm shooting for over 127 in 2 minutes. And if that keto guy can match that, or even...
That does not...
It does.
That is a crappy
No,
argument.
it would be.
It does.
It would be if you beat your record and then went to like a strict keto diet after a while, and then tried to rebeat your record. And then
I basically...
That's what you would have to do.
I couldn't do one push-up.
You'd have to compete with yourself.
I would convince myself it'd be a negative placebo effect. I would have convinced myself this is bullshit ahead of time, and I'd do like 50 push-ups.
Dude, if Zach is listening to this, he's going to shit his pants listening to your lack of knowledge of research methods, man. That is not how you measure it.
But think about like everything though. I've always, even with jujitsu or when I was doing the cheerleading thing and all that stuff, I always reduced it to as long as I'm stronger than everybody else, I'll win. And most of the time that works, bro. Like,
I
research that, homie.
I'll give you that.
That's fair enough.
You are strong. I'll give you that.
Works for me.
You're strong.
That works for me.
Strong-headed.
But anyways, so we'll have future debates on the keto diet. But we were talking about, as this goes into, we were identifying triggers in the last episode, but then talking about how it can be really easy for whether it's clients or ourselves or whoever dealing with, if we're in the middle of struggling with like whether it's addiction, something compulsive or something unhealthy that kind of like we talked about with the limbic system as far as being in the routine of that, tying that into something sexual and in a sense feeling like we quote unquote need it. But we see this a lot with our clients when we're talking about pornography in the last one where we're saying, okay, you cannot watch pornography because it's stipulation, whether it's directly, you're not allowed to view it or possess it, or you're not allowed to view something that is sexually stimulating, whatever that may be. So there's times clients will come into treatment and say, hey, that's kind of frustrating. Like you're just kind of saying, hey, I should completely just be a hermit and close myself off and not do anything. And it's kind of like, no, we're not necessarily saying that, but you do need some time of abstinence. You do need a period of being able to get away from it. Not only that, but if it's really that difficult for you to avoid something at the risk of you're going to go to prison over it or you're going to go back to jail over it, then there's obviously an issue here. So we've got to, quote unquote, zoom out and kind of see what is going on around that. And I think that's usually what's going on is in those moments, they've either fooled themselves or we've tricked ourselves somehow into kind of thinking, well, this really isn't that bad. But it's kind of going back to that. I'm so focused on just what I want right now. I'm so focused on what I need right now. I'm not even looking at all the other very simple things that could be going on that are actually leading up to this.
Well, think about how many clients you have or you guys have dealt with where their PO kind of gives them, their probation officer or their parole officer kind of gives them an ultimatum, right? If you do this again, I'll send you to prison, right?
Yeah.
And then inevitably they end up doing it again, right?
Right.
Yeah, because they're just trying to stop. That's it.
Right.
They're just saying, okay, I won't do it anymore.
Right.
But they're not fixing any of the stuff that leads up to that final decision of, oh, okay, this doesn't seem that bad, even though I could go back to prison or back to jail or get kicked out of treatment.
They don't see it as a final decision.
Yeah, so something's happening along the lines. Like, say there's if I have a 26 dominoes laying out, and domino A is, yep, never going to do that again. Things are going great. I love my life. And domino Z is, I'm downloading porn right now. Okay, all those other dominoes had to fall in there. How did you get to B? How did you get to C? How did you get to D? What happened way back there? Not just, oh crap, we're at W. Well, we better do something. It's like, what happens at A? What tips A over? What tips B over?
Well,
I don't think they see that chain of events.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah.
Well, a
That's
lot of
something
it though
stuck in
too
that.
is they use a and I don't know if this is I don't know if that you can put a name to this, and maybe you guys can help me out here, but there's certainly a cognitive distortion at play here, because a lot of times what they do say is okay, well, your ultimatum of sending me to prison for this one behavior is unreasonable, and because that's unreasonable, I'm going to go ahead and do it, because that's an unreasonable consequence and I don't agree with it. And so my behavior doesn't necessitate you taking me to prison. And so I can overlook it and even think, okay, well, maybe I trick my mind into thinking, okay, it's not going to happen, or his superiors are going to override him, or there's no way he means it, because there's no way that that's true. Where the PO, definitely is being true about that. It reminds me of when I was a kid and, we'd still have school sometimes in high school, right? We went back to my house one time, and my friend Chris, he was flicking pennies at me, and dude, he was so good at flicking pennies. Like he was.
You're gonna tell this story, huh?
Yeah, nobody died. So he's flicking pennies at me. And now again, so just put yourself in the place of Chris, right?
I can't believe you're going to tell this story.
Knowing everything you know about me,
This is
right?
awesome.
Knowing that's 16. Come on. The statute of
No.
limitations on being a dumbass runs out.
I know,
after.
I'm along for the ride.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
just surprised you're bringing it up.
Now I'm telling you, like, you have to understand, the guy was like a world-class penny flicker, like to the point where he would leave welts on you, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, it wasn't warranted. I wasn't doing anything. I'm sitting there like watching TV, and he's just flicking pennies at me. And then, it kind of gets to the point where it's funny because it's bothering him, like that kind of shit. And so then now completely rational. So I go and I grab my 22 caliber rifle, right? And I bring it in, and I
hit your mute button.
yeah, and I put a bullet in it and lock and load it. And again, now look, nothing has happened. Nothing has happened at this point. But I tell Chris, I say, now Chris, friend of mine, okay, if you flick one more penny at me, I'm gonna shoot you with this gun, okay? I'm gonna. And now again, I say, Chris, now look, I'm not. Look, here's the thing, man. If you stop, nothing's going to happen. We'll just go about our day. No harm, no foul. Nobody wins. You win. You win. Look at all these welts on me from these pennies that you've been flicking at me, right? But so if you flick a penny, it's basically committing suicide. Like that's equivalent at this point. So do you understand? Yeah, I understand. And he flicks another fucking penny, right? So now we're off to the races. Now, I was never going to shoot the dude, right? But he started running because I grabbed the gun, of course. He gets up and starts running, and I grab the gun, and then through a wall, like I shoot in front of him, so at least the drywall comes out, in front of his face, and he gets, a little powder in his face or whatever, and he comes out, and I'm like, dude, come on, I told you that was gonna happen, like,
Fair warning.
yeah, fair warning. Now that's a little extreme.
Why would he have ever thought that you were just exaggerating the threat?
Isn't this like a scene out of Alpha Dog?
I mean, but think about it. What would you do? Would you like? Oh yeah, I probably should flick another penny at him. Let's see what happens if this. I mean, there's a loaded gun sitting
He
there.
kind of had to at that point.
Oh,
Yeah, he kind of got dared.
You know, at that
battle of-
point, Chris's hands were tied,
yeah,
except for his ability to flick that penny.
yeah. There it is. That might be an extreme example, but
That is extreme.
yeah. I usually tell that though and say, look, I mean, you again, the threat that I put against you, sometimes you can't let that overrule your sensibilities.
So would that
okay?
be black-white thinking then? Kind of all or nothing, absolutist thinking type deal? Like, if you tell me I can't access the internet, that's unreasonable. Screw it, I'm going back. It's kind of like the dude has in his head limited his choices to two outcomes: prison. Well, that's it. Prison.
Yeah.
Prison and prison.
I get-
And I get to play on the internet, or prison anyway.
I guess I would call it maybe I don't know. I'm winging it here, but external irrationality, internal self-righteousness. Like,
External irrationality,
Well, yeah.
internal self-righteousness.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
So think about like the analogy I've used, and I generally use this with somebody that's failed a polygraph and is hiding things. I try to use it as a way to look at it a little bit differently to help them be honest. But it's the same idea. So like you're saying, like internally, really what I'm doing is I'm justifying this, just saying why it's okay. So I tell someone when they're hiding something, think about if you had a friend that had a gambling problem. So how does a gambling problem happen, right? So the first time they go in there, they have $1,000, whatever, and they lose it all, and they think, oh crap. Well, there's like this small amount of risk. I know it's not very likely that I can win. The odds are definitely in the favors of the house, but I can say, well, crap, let me get another 500 out and go back in there. Boom, gone. Well, shoot, I know there's still a chance. Well, let me get another 1,000. Let me get more. So you're kind of saying at a certain point that thinking of gambling with very little odds of this paying off or getting something out of it has not worked, and it's gotten me into this spot. So I know what'll get me out of this spot. That same exact thinking. Well, if I just gamble a little more, now I'll get out of it. It's like, no. You got to identify that is not working for you anymore. Like
so rather than just admitting you suck at gambling.
Yeah, you're a terrible
just
gambler.
Keep trying.
Yeah.
Pushing that button.
Well, so it's like, let's say somebody
hit you.
fails a polygraph. Okay, deep down they know I'm hiding some stuff. Well, if I try to hide it a little better, or if I hide it this time, now I'll pass, or now they won't catch me. Oh, I failed again. Well, but now if I hide, it's like, no, it's not going to work. Like that's the thinking that got you there.
Yeah.
Like, this is the line of thinking that got you into this position. So it is not working. We need to try a different approach.
It's funny though, because at times I think if I were a client coming into these groups and some of the therapeutic cliches we throw at them, I think would be confusing at times. Okay, so let me give you an example here. I don't even think Albert Einstein said this, but it's a very famous quote.
If it's on the internet, then you're good.
Yeah, but it just something that in insanity is continuing to do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right?
Yeah.
But then what about if at first you don't succeed, try again, or
well, that's conflicting, huh?
Well, right, or like Abraham Lincoln, he tried this and failed and tried this and failed and or Michael Jordan, I love that one quote when he's talking about all the things he failed at and game winning shots and all that and that's why he succeeds. I'm kind of like, okay, so
Wayne Gretzky, 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right. So which is it though, dude? I mean, so you're telling me to continue trying something because if I fail at it, that's okay because I should suck at something that I'm trying new. But then at the same time, doing the same thing and expecting the same or different results is insanity. Which is it, right?
Yeah.
So again, I think get away from cliches temporarily, like that. That just because they can be so damn conflicting. If I was hearing those two things,
that's true. Because then someone will be like, "Well, yeah, but some people do win again." That's not the point I'm making. The point
Just
is
keep trying. Well,
I had a friend once. He went down there. Okay, yeah, he won.
Good.
But you're
point.
losing.
Your friend won, yeah.
But you're losing.
Well, yeah, you look at, any freak occurrence, right? Any freak occurrence. Like I just got done reading a book about the Kennedy assassination, and they were just and
About it being an inside job.
yeah. So conspiracy. So it was actually a book by Stephen King. It really good. It was called 11/22/63, and it was about this guy who was trying to stop the Kennedy assassination. And anyway, Stephen King did an afterword, and on there he said he was about 98 or 99% sure that all the research he said that he looked at said it was Oswald, right? And that the chances of everything being perfect for Oswald to pull that off were, astronomically, in the millions, a million to one. But then he kind of made a statement. He's like, well, yeah, but in a lottery, you have, billions to one odds and somebody always wins. So no matter what, that something's going to happen. Like there's going to be somebody who wins that. And there's going to be one of those things that do happen because that's just how
he was saying against all odds, he still hit that shot.
Correct. Like he was, and again, he wasn't. I'm not speaking for Stephen King here. I'm saying he was saying, and he was all the research he did for it was he was 99% sure that it was Oswald. And in the book, it is Oswald who's doing the shot, right? So they basically, and he was saying, all the conspiracy theories aside, yeah, there part of it was because he was killed before he could fully confess to it, right? But the idea there is that no matter how off the chances are, somebody's going to hit it. So the gambling thing, I think that argument fails on its face because it's like the idea that, oh, I'm going to be that one. No, you're not, bro. Like, and again, are you willing to stake your freedom? Are you willing to stake your recovery on the likelihood that that's going to happen? And it's probably not going to happen. So I think when you start factoring percentages it's really helpful. And
Well, that's funny you said that, because that's exactly what happened in a group once. So I brought that up in a group, and obviously most people are in there thinking, oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm kind of gambling with my... And, of course, you get the few guys that are understandably like, well, but there is a chance, or there is this. And realistically, that's kind of the thinking that has gotten them into that point of like, how can we finagle around what's right and finagle around? And so that's what somebody said, is he said, what if he made a good point. He's like, so what if in your therapy you had this option where your therapist says, I'm going to give you one of two things. One, it's like 0.04% chance likely to happen, or 99 point blah blah. Why would you pick like, if you looked at it that way, there's no way you'd pick the 0.04, but you're picking that like every time. Not only that, but with what payoff, like the worst payoff ever. And the guy was kind of like, oh yeah, I guess kind of like if you look at it that way. So yeah, it's like you just said, like the percentages kind of thing. Like, not only is that a gamble, but let's like highlight why that's a gamble, like how bad of a gamble that is.
I just thought of something that might answer this, and it also involves using a cliche. So, I mean, the idea
you
that...
miss 100% of the fish in the other sea. That's just it. You're all, okay.
It's the practice makes perfect thing. So that's actually a misnomer. Practice makes perfect, because if you are practicing with crappy technique, you're not going to achieve perfection. Like, I'm definitely the worst basketball player in this room.
no, you're not.
This close then. But
We can have a competition to see who's worse.
A shitty competition. Like, if I decided that I want to improve my free throw percentage and I practice using my current technique, I'm not going to get much better. Maybe a little. I could shoot 500 free throws a day for the next 6 months, and my improvement is going to be negligible. I know my form sucks. But if we can agree that perfect practice makes perfect, then if I watch tapes of like Jeff Hornacek or somebody that was really good at free throws, and I make my technique and mirror his, I'll bet you I'll get better. And so
Would you have to wipe your face before you
I
shot
would
too?
follow everything he did. Yes, wipe my face twice. Look like
What were we gonna say?
Have a shitty haircut.
Well,
No, he was cool.
Already there. Actually, I don't. I'm
He's a
just talking
sweaty.
trash on my wife. But if our clients are telling themselves that if they practice this, if they do it enough, they'll succeed. Well, I mean, like with gambling, like good luck perfecting that. Also with trying to dig your way out of a hole that you've spent the last 30 years conditioning yourself to respond to along this addictive compulsive behavior, and you're trying to pull yourself out using improper technique. In other words, the opposite of what we're telling them as their therapists, like they're going to suck. But if they practice the technique we're telling them, they'll do all right.
Well, think about this too. I mean, I'm not a big fan of practice makes perfect anyway, because I think perfection is pretty boring. I mean, if I was
And probably not gonna happen.
right, if I was perfect at something, first of all, I think that's an impossible concept. Secondly, if I was
shot 90% or something.
if you were perfect at jujitsu, think how boring that would be.
Oh yeah, it's
Right,
true.
you'd waste everybody. What would be the point
It'd
of
be
even
cool for a few months.
Yeah, because
know?
you get a lot of praise and whatnot,
Yeah.
but after a while, it's like
Yeah.
this is stupid. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think it's more important to say practice makes progress. Perfect practice makes progress, and if I can make progress on these things over time, I mean, don't sell them a bill of goods that what you're going to do, these little things are you're not Abraham Lincoln, bro. I mean, like it's not going to happen. Like, so there are, again, that's the whole, like when your teacher says you can do anything if you put your mind to it. It's like,
you can't.
I can live on the sun.
Yeah, I love that one. Well,
Within trying to fly for 36 years, I can't.
So but I think people are more, when they talk about their offense, they're more comfortable talking about it as if it's a freak occurrence. Like this came out of nowhere, and this just happened, right? So this was a lottery. This is the odds of a lottery happening, and that day my number hit, and that's why I offended.
There's no way it'll ever happen again. It was that weird anomaly. It happened in a vacuum.
Right.
It wasn't. Yeah.
So the process of recovery, this lesson just goes over. I mean, a big thing we're targeting here so we were talking about sexual risk management, stage of change, emotion management, problem solving. A big piece of this is like you were talking about those dominoes, A through Z well, let's look at every single factor that we possibly can that contributed to your decision to sexually offend. Given all the circumstances, okay, and all things being equal, anybody else in those circumstances with your life history and your thoughts, your feelings at that moment probably would have done the exact same thing. Let's just acknowledge that. It's not you're uniquely broken. You're not some hideous monster. It's that given those set of circumstances, this was what you thought to be the best decision at that moment. Okay, so again, you line up the entire constellation of events that led to their offense, and you break that down and help them understand that. So it was a process. Acting as if it's a freak occurrence and it's a singularity doesn't help anything that we can accomplish in treatment, because there's nothing to break down. How can you control for a singularity? How can you control for a freak lottery win? You know what I mean? You can't control for that,
right,
because the odds are stacked against you. So when you teach it to a client like that, then they say, oh, well, yeah. And I'll just tell a client, unfortunately, cognitive behavioral therapy ain't going to do shit for you, homie. It's not going to do anything for you, because our ability to help you understand where in this chain of events of your thought process, I was faced with a situation. Here was my thought. Here was the corresponding emotion. That emotion led to a behavior, and here was the positive, negative consequences from that. And then I learned from that, and then I went on, right? And then I continued to go down. And maybe that went on a downward spiral and continued to regress, and I found myself in other situations and all those other things. And then then it turned into but understand that was a process. That wasn't a freak occurrence, And most of the time, if we can get a grip on what was going on in their life, usually that gives us a pretty good sense of, oh yeah, but naturally you would find yourself in that situation.
Well, I like the way you put that, because that's the way I've kind of mentioned that sometimes. I think it was based on something you told me right back when I first started. But if someone's kind of entertaining that, what you usually see right out of the gate, yeah, they're either embarrassed or they've really built these defense mechanisms up in their head, and they actually believe some of this stuff, which we can do to ourselves. But it's that idea. So someone's saying, like, yeah, it was just kind of a freak thing, it just happened. And I just say, so hold on, let's just think about this for a minute, though. Let's just say that really happened, which I don't think it did, but let's just say it happened. Let me explain this. So if I'm going to tell your PO and I'm going to tell the courts, well, he really can't respond to therapy because this guy just kind of does things randomly and he has no control over it. So how's that going to sound to your PO? And then usually that you get like that's not what I meant. So it kind of just opens that door. It's like, first off, other things did happen, and that's okay. That's normal, but that's actually good, because now we can look at it and actually address that kind of stuff. But it's kind of highlighting, like, if I were to parrot kind of what you just said to me in like a therapeutic way, how's that going to sound? How does that sound? And usually
when I sound like an unhinged animal.
Yeah, you're just going to go like lose your shit as soon as you walk out the door. And if that's the case, I need to tell your PO that you're pretty high risk, because you can't even control what you're doing.
Well, that's the hard thing though, because they believe it, and they do. And sure. I mean, so the thing is I like that you bring that out, and if you can do that and not do it in a mocking way, then you're good on it. Like, I was actually one of my clients presented a level advancement the other day, and I was actually pretty proud of him in the group. So this is my way too many group people in there, but the group really so this was a pretty big group that has transitioners who are in the halfway house who came from prison. They're doing aftercare, so they just are fresh out of the program that was in the prison. So I said, hey, can you share with the group a little bit about your offense? And so he talked about this, and he said, well, so what happened is I dated this girl, and we had gone out on a couple dates and, kissed before, but nothing too major. Hadn't seen her for a few months, and then we were at a party with me and my buddies. Now, everybody's above 21, so there's no children involved here. We had some drinks. We were playing strip poker. She was completely naked in front of me at one point or another. And then we went up to this, area where we were going to go sleeping, because they had like bunk beds and stuff. This was in some cabin out in the woods. And they were under blankets making out, right? And she's completely nude, right? So she's completely nude, and there's people around. Their friends are there playing cards or something like that. And she audibly says, "Are you guys going to leave or what?" And then they start making out more and more, and then he kind of puts his hands down her pants and digitally penetrates, and then goes from there, and then they stop. So they say no. So in other words, layman terms, he fingered her and then moves on from there, right? And so she said, "Oh, we should stop." Immediately stopped, and then leaves. And then later on, the police come to there the next day, and they say, "Do you know why we're here?" And he thought it was an unrelated charge that was coming up. And then they said, nope, there's been some accusations against you from this girl or whatever, and we have DNA evidence. He's all, well, of course you do have, because it was totally consensual,
Stuff happened, yeah.
right? And so he presented that, and he said, so really, I have a hard time calling her a victim. And he called her by her name, which was, I won't repeat it here, but he doesn't like calling her a victim, and I don't like that either. I just say, I think the more, it's funny because we took my victim and turned that even into more of a semantics trap and said the person I victimized, and I think, well, humanize that person and give them a name, so call that person by their first name and just talk about them as a human being. Anyway, he presented that to the group, and that was basically his disclosure. He's like, that's why I'm here, is because ultimately this turned into my word against hers, and I was charged with object rape, initially, and I was facing 15 years to life. And then the prosecutor said, or I'll give you a Class A misdemeanor, and you got to do sex offender treatment. What would you do? And he's all, I had a lawyer who the first case brought it out, and it brought a bunch of religion into it, and I fired him immediately thereafter, and I ran out of money. Like, what would you do? Now, you can imagine guys coming out of prison. How do you think they
jumped as shit?
Well, they were so, and yeah, they were all over him saying, and they were trying to say, well, do you think that maybe she could have had a little bit of trauma, and that's why? And he's also, look, here's what I've learned from this is, and I put it to the group. I said, okay, all things being equal, you guys are adults drinking, playing strip poker. You're in bed with this girl. You've hooked up with her before, and she was married too. That's another kicker. But I said, even if she was married, like you're telling me you're in bed and she's like putting her hands down your pants, like you're gonna stop. Like if she said that's what's gonna come to your mind. How many of you would have just went for it? Of course you would have, right? You're already that far, and you're telling me you would have stopped, right? So he said, well, yeah. So what I've really learned from this, he said, initially I can't take this. Some of the assignments here are hard for me to deal with because I can't look at myself as a deviant pervert, because I don't think that I am. What I do have a hard time with is I'm really attracted to chaotic women, and I allow myself to get into relationships that put me at risk with girls who that's true. I don't know anything about her past. What I can say is a girl who would be willing to do that on the first night that we were hanging out, there's something about her that says maybe she's a little bit unpredictable. Maybe I don't know where this is going to go. And so because of that, I need to protect myself, because any one of us in a situation that are faced with my word against yours, you raped me, that's a tough spot to be in no matter what.
Yeah, his high-risk situation was not forcing people to do things they didn't want to do. His high-risk situation was not pornography. It was chaotic women. It's a lifestyle type thing that after having, and I keep using the zoomed out thing, Justin, after having, taken a big look at things, he was able to see that, that kind of, whether we're talking about chaotic women or just kind of that party atmosphere, that's a high risk situation for him, and not necessarily even just legally. Obviously, he got hit by the legal end of things, but just for being miserable, being involved with somebody that's involved in a lifestyle that's unpredictable. I don't know. He whether or not he has any further legal problems, if he's able to get a handle on this, maybe at least his relationships will be a little smoother from here forward.
Well, right. So if you reduce that guy's offense to, this was just some crazy bitch or whatever, right? What does that do for his treatment? No, nothing.
Well, no, yeah.
Right. Now again, I try to say, well, why don't try to have some empathy for her? What if she truly believes that she was sexually assaulted? You can't say, okay, let's have some empathy for homeboy here, and then say, oh no, the victim was just a piece of shit, who accused. It's like, okay, you can't simply say, oh well, if you have the right lifestyle set up, then none of these things are going to happen. No, the recognition for that would be, okay, look at all those things. So if once my limbic system is put into action by a trigger or whatnot, right, then it'll override everything else. Think about that. This is why they say don't try to. What do they say about trying to save somebody who's drowning? Like don't don't do it without, or don't try to do it by
Just don't
yourself.
Yeah, they'll sink you.
Don't
right?
do it.
Yeah,
Just
like
don't do it. Let them drown.
Yeah, just let them drown.
That's the advice.
No, but like, you know, don't, because people will naturally try to like save themselves, and rationality is gone. Your cortex is not functioning. Your limbic system for survival is in full force, and even though that's no longer a survival mechanism, it's nevertheless in place. So things that rationally Anthony Weiner shouldn't have been doing, he clearly did, because his limbic system was overriding this. And if he wasn't able to say, okay, these are my triggers, these are things that I need, the dude should have had a damn smartphone or a Twitter account or fucking anything for that matter, right? He should have eliminated all those things if he really wanted to get this under control. And then slowly he could make the decisions later on after he's had some time off, whether and how he would integrate those back into his life. But I mean,
he didn't zoom out.
Yeah, there it is, right there.
Well, and that's I think is the tough balance with, and that's kind of the conversation I have with clients initially when they have the complaint or the argument, which I agree with. Is just saying like, well, what am I supposed to do? Just be a hermit? I'm supposed to be totally closed off? That's not healthy either. I'm like, no, I agree with you, but there has to be, especially if something is a problem for you, there has to be some sort of period though where you do abstain from it. You do get away from it, because if you had an issue with pornography and then now you're just saying, coming, guns blazing, day one of treatment, I'm just going to watch pornography all the time. It's like, are you really going to get any distance from it or even learn about it? Because especially when you're entrenched in it, you're not going to, like the zoom out thing, I don't think you're able to zoom out at all when you're caught up in the middle of it. Like if you're just doing it all the time still, you're zooming in, if anything. So it's kind of eliminating your ability to even see it, kind of like you can't see the forest through the trees kind of thing.
Need some type of period of abstinence from the triggers to be able to come back around and deal with them.
Right, which is why a lot of clients said, going to prison saved my life, because I was able to get away from all those things. But again,
this segues into this.
Yeah, why did you have to go to prison in order to pull that off, right? Yeah. You could have just, if you were dedicated to yourself and you're dedicated to working this through, then you would have been able to kind of pull through. So for any of our probationing clients that have not yet gone to prison or committed an offense, or anybody who's dealing with this now, I think you look at that and say, okay, a stark recognition of my triggers, and therapists too, like saying, this is a discussion we need to have with our clients. We're going to talk about this. We're not going to shy away from it and only talk about the good things. This is what's really going to help them in the long run. And you think about it, what's 18 months compared to the rest of your life? I'm going to take 18 months away from the internet. You'll survive, trust me. You will. It'll suck, of course it will, but you're going to survive. If you need to get away from it that long, you need to get away from whatever it is, the internet, whatever, you're going to be okay. So again, this is for those of you guys going over triggers. Hopefully that's been helpful understanding of this insight to this topic. But now, you guys have anything else to say on this?
Cocaine rats and zoom out. That's what I've learned.
Zoom out on the cocaine rats.
Guerrilla social work. Do we have to say that each time?
I think so.
Yeah. This person at all.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Now I realize it's fun and exciting and all that stuff. And of course, that's the thing. I know a lot of people do that. And for the most part, they all turn out, not all, but a lot of them turn out just fine. Nothing happens, But again, you can't control that other thing. So even for this, like the guy, that we're talking about, I think, have you ever had a client that came in and he's like, okay, so what are you hoping to accomplish? And you're like, man, I want to get through this program and reoffend immediately. Like, what are some of the things clients usually tell you guys when you first start off?
I want to get through this.
Right? Or I'm never going to do this again.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well, for sure. Yeah.
Right. They're not insincere when they say that. I genuinely believe if Justin's my client, and I say, Justin, what do you want to accomplish? He says, I'm never going to do this again. This ruined my life. I'm never going to do this again.
They just have a very myopic view of things. They're so close to it, they can't see, the forest for the trees.
Well, it's the fear motivator. I got in trouble. My wife knows now, or my PO is going to get me in trouble. So, yeah, I'm gung-ho. I'm all about it. 2 months later, I'm in treatment and kind of toward, things are kind of boring again.
Yeah,
I'm
there it
right
is.
Back down where I was.
There it is. The Justin that's sitting in front of me is a very sincere and genuine person, and I think he's telling me the truth. But that's the thing. It's not, so he didn't lie, and behind his mind he is plotting and planning 3 months from now.
Right.
But shit changes in 3 months. That's the acknowledgement. So the acknowledgement is, I'm making a sincere and honest statement about my motivation and what I intend to do. And that's be successful and not reoffend or do anything sexually. And it is sincere and it is genuine. We shouldn't make that mistake that think they're lying. But if I don't change things in 3 months, then I'm going to be, I don't have any other options than to continue doing the same behavior. This is why recovery is a process too. So I try to
fall back into the same pattern.
Well, and what I try to think about like this: recovery and reoffense. Okay, they're all. It's like in a continuum. And what I'm saying is you're not just in one or the other, right? Most of our clients are in like this, like Justin said, this period of abstinence, which is about somewhere in the middle. I'm just going to do nothing and lay low and not go this way and not go that way, right? But then this is what you have to ask yourself is whatever life decision I'm making, whether this is getting a job, dating a girl, going out to the movies, how I'm going to spend my money, is this moving me towards recovery or is this moving me towards reoffense? There's a lot of things that have to happen in order to get me to reoffend. And again, reoffending, I mean, we all know the diversity of offenses. I mean, you can do something as simple as, a lewdness charge or, something as crazy as rape. So there's plenty of room for reoffending, okay? But recovery too, I have to ask myself, is this, like earlier we were talking about guys who are sending money to girls over the internet that, are in South Africa and ask, that looks super hot. Like, man, I really hit the jackpot here. No, she hit the jackpot, dude. But, or that are missing payments because they just had to have their cigarettes, I cannot go without those things. Is that a step towards recovery or is that a step towards reoffense? You're not reoffending, but which direction are you going?
Well, it takes a while to get them to the point for them to see that.
Yeah. Well, I heard this put a certain way a long time ago and it stuck with me is just saying never with any of our choices, with anything that we're doing, are we ever neutral. Like we're always, no matter what, pursuing something or avoiding something.
That's exactly
no matter what,
right.
Which... And there's like hundreds of things you can probably think of in your life that's the case, but I think that's pretty accurate. You're like when people say, "I just want to play it cool and lay low." Well, you're not. You're avoiding. You're not working towards something.
You're drifting one way or another.
Yeah.
You're not being static. You're not remaining neutral. It's
no matter what, we're constantly pursuing or avoiding, working towards or working to get away from. Like,
well, yeah.
What. Action is action.
If I'm minding my own business and this is, and again, if you're a community member listening to this is why you have to understand this. If you think for the safest thing for a sex offender is to just stay in their home and mind their own damn business, man, again, what you have to face is the reality of it that's making that guy more dangerous. Unwanted social isolation precludes criminal behavior.
Yeah, let's throw a sign up in front of their house. That makes them,
Well, I'm just, right. So again, I think anybody with a moderate sense of willpower for 1 year can lay low and stay in their home and watch Netflix. Anybody could do that, right? I could do that for a year. I could definitely do that for a year.
I don't know if I could do that.
For a year? You really put your mind to it?
Well, if there was like a really
There's a lot of stuff on Netflix, dude.
I don't know. I was laid off from a job once, and this was back in like 2008, 2009, where the economy was hell.
Yeah.
And I remember I got a severance package that covered me for like 3 months, and we got approved for unemployment for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Years. And I thought, holy shit, that's awesome. I was like, I'm going to take like 6-7 months off. Seriously, after 2 weeks, I was looking for a job. I was like, how many times can you go to the gym in a day? Or like, how many movies can you watch? Like, it got old fast.
Really?
So I was bored out of my mind.
I think though if you're coming out of prison, right?
Sure.
How difficult would that be? Sure. And a lot of those, I think that it makes a lot of sense to those guys. For you, if you've been working, right? If you've been working more than full time for the last half decade of your life, and you fall into that, of course, that's going to be tough. And but again, you've set the stage for expectations on yourself. That's a little bit more. No. Your process that's been hit by a freak occurrence is now rebuilding and going back that way. So. Again, I think that a lot of times this is where we have to challenge these guys to not do those things. And recognizing, it's a same thing with that guy. He was dating this girl and she was kind of crazy. And I pointed out to him, I'm like, dude, like, what is it? I was like, so again, this is a girl she's 35. There's nothing wrong. They're totally of age. And I was like, think of all the warning signs that you see in this girl that you're bringing to my attention. And why on earth, given your offense, would you continue hooking up with this girl? And I said, I agree with you. It's unlikely that this girl is going to accuse you of a sexual offense, right? But something's going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. Something's not going to go right. And you've nevertheless chosen to continue down this route. Like, you have to check that. It's not going to make you reoffend sexually, but it's certainly going to leave more problems in your life. And you're moving closer to reoffense. You're certainly not moving towards recovery. You have to be moving the other way. And when you look at it that way, a lot of clients can buy into that. So again, I think breaking it down to the process of your sexual abuse just didn't happen. There was a process that led up to it. If I can convince clients of that, that's where I start. But then once I get them there, I say, okay, great. Your recovery is a process too. It's not just any one decision that's going to make me be successful. I have to make multiple decisions all the time, every day.
That's a tough one too, and I know we're gonna wrap up here, probably another episode. It kind of follows up on the motivation one that we were talking about, but it is kind of interesting ideas. I mentioned like the whole, I started looking for a job after 2 weeks, and you were saying, yeah, you've kind of set the stage for expectation. That is definitely another difficult layer. It's kind of like, say, for example, somebody is out of shape their entire life. They've never eaten well, they've never worked out, and their friend who's in ultra good shape is like, dude, it just feels good. Get out and do it. How do you really get them to do it? Because they don't know that. They've never tried it. So it's kind of like that idea of like, if someone is like really not really had a healthy life or not been motivated and just has this person across the desk who they feel like, yeah, their life's great. They're probably well off and they went to school. And this person's telling me, yeah, it feels good. Well, that's great. I've never had that. So yeah, it is kind of like that. How do you like make them thirsty kind of thing? Like, how do you help them zoom out and realizing that zooming out is actually going to help, even though you don't feel that right now. You actually
have to loosen the reins and let them do that shit then.
Yeah.
Well, and
well, there's a part of realistically for them, it's kind of like with therapy, as much as we know. And I tell us sometimes when guys get really stuck in that, I'm like, here's the thing, man, like, therapy's not magic. You're not going to come in here one day and I'm just going to drop this bomb on you and completely change your mind and this light's going to go off. This will only work if we talk about it, and then you start just doing some of this stuff. Like, you just have to do some of this. You kind of have to see that it does feel good. You kind of have to see that it does help, to be honest, that it does help to make a change. Like, there's a part of it where it's just, which I think is the harder part, actually doing the changes, like actually making something happen.
Yeah, and we'll wrap up here. But think about like this. So you think about multiple types of therapy. Have either of you ever done physical therapy before?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So I did physical therapy one time because I ripped my bicep tendon because our friend Aaron Ames was a piece of shit. And
this is what I
no, not my bicep. I didn't rip my bicep off of my arm because I was an idiot, Jeff, like you did twice. My biceps are way stronger than that, and it wasn't my fault. So I was Aaron Ames, our buddy, was supposed to be spotting me, and I just happened to be doing massive amounts of weight and dumbbells on incline bench press.
You couldn't handle the weight.
I think that's what he's saying. Yeah, he couldn't quite hack it.
So I went to failure like you normally do, and I told him not to to spot me. I said, "Hey, grab my wrists to spot me."
He went elbows,
and he went elbows and slipped, and dude, the weight came down and totally wrenched my arm, right? And I had to go through this this huge process of getting that back on board, but it took like about 6 months to get me back to square. And I was doing like these stupid little exercises with my arm to get blood flow into my arm to make it kind of repair itself, and I got cortisone shots. But that took a long time and a lot of practice. It was not having, and so mental health therapy is no different than physical. I mean, there's no different. I need to practice that. I need to take these little interventions. I need to say, I'm going to do this. And guess what? I did that. And a week later, my arm still felt like shit. Like, it didn't get better until like a month out. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm finally seeing some improvement here. And so again, mental health therapy is very much the same.
Yeah.
So again, get away from those cliches. They're useless. They're not helpful. Acknowledge, hey, this isn't going to work the first time. This isn't going to work the 10th time. You do this 30 times and you're going to start seeing a small difference. You do this 100 times, you're going to notice some big time changes. But it's on you to make those decisions each and every time. Again, am I moving towards recovery or am I moving towards reoffense? Constantly ask yourself those questions. So by the next podcast, I should be the new record holder. Or sorry.
You already are.
I'll put myself in the 1, 2, and 3 spot, even though Arlo refuses to do that. So for the record hold for the 2 minute, push-ups in 2 minutes.
I'm gonna go ahead and put on record. You're gonna get 135.
I just hope I get 128. That's all I care about.
Get 135.
And we'll see.
Let's wrap this bitch up.
Yeah, that's it.
Bye.
Bye, Dad.
Ugh.
That does it, ladies and gentlemen. Episode number 5 of the Guerrilla Social Work Podcast on recovery. Hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to reach out. Contact us on all the good old social media stuff, Guerrilla Social Work Podcast. Looks like on our next episode, for number 6, we're going to be talking about accountability. Hope you tune in for that one. See you later.